Welcome to Global Mind Talks. Let's explore the ideas and insights that shape better lives together.
All right, so we're diving deep today into the world of Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge.
Yeah,
It's definitely a dark chapter,
absolutely.
but one that I think is super important to understand.
Yeah.
We're talking Cambodia in the 1970s,
Right.
a communist revolution
Mm-hmm.
that, promised this utopian agrarian society.
Right.
But
Okay.
things went very sideways very quickly.
Yeah.
And we've got some excerpts today from this fascinating YouTube video
Okay.
that breaks down Pol Pot's journey and his,
Yeah.
let's just say, unconventional approach to governing.
It's a fascinating and disturbing look at how ideology can be twisted, even with seemingly noble goals into something truly horrific.
Totally. So to kind of kick things off,
Yeah.
let's rewind a bit.
Okay.
This guy, Pol Pot,
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't exactly like a peasant revolutionary.
Right.
He came from a well-off family.
Right.
Even had ties to the Cambodian royal family.
Oh.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
From palace connections to leading a revolution.
Right.
And then he goes off to study in France, of all places.
Right.
And that's where he gets exposed to Marxist ideas.
Yeah, to understand that aha moment, we need to kind of zoom out to the bigger picture.
Okay.
It's the post-World War II era, a time of just immense political and intellectual change.
Okay.
The Cold War is brewing, and Marxism, which advocates for a classless society
Right.
where workers control the means of production, is gaining traction in many parts of the world.
Yeah.
France in particular had strong communist movements at that time.
So Pol Pot soaks up all this Marxist theory in France,
Yeah.
returns to Cambodia, and finds a country, struggling with its own internal divisions.
Right.
And the spillover from the Vietnam War. The king at the time
Yeah.
is, shall we say, not a fan of communist ideas.
Right.
And tries to crack down, which predictably backfires spectacularly.
Yeah, it's almost like, trying to suppress an idea only makes it spread faster.
Yeah.
And this is where the Khmer Rouge, Pol Pot's Communist Party, starts gaining momentum.
Okay.
They employ guerrilla tactics,
Uh-huh.
hit-and-run warfare, essentially.
Yeah.
And by 1975, they're victorious,
Wow.
seizing control of the capital Phnom Penh.
And this is where things get really dark really fast.
Yeah.
They force everyone out of the cities,
Right.
aiming to create this agrarian utopia.
Right.
And they declare year zero.
Year zero.
It sounds almost futuristic,
Right.
but it's actually about erasing the past, wiping the slate clean.
Exactly. Year zero wasn't just a catchy slogan. It was the very foundation of the Khmer Rouge ideology.
Okay.
They wanted to completely dismantle the existing social structure and rebuild society from scratch.
Wow.
Problem is, their methods were brutal and utterly disregarded human life.
Yeah.
Money was abolished, religion, banned education, halted.
It's crazy.
Anything hinting at intellectualism, even wearing glasses, could get you killed.
It's like they were trying to rewind civilization back to the Stone Age.
Yeah,
And anyone who didn't fit their mold was deemed an enemy.
right.
Families were torn apart.
Yes.
Children sent to indoctrination camps.
It's brutal.
And intellectuals, professionals, artists, anyone deemed a threat to their vision were systematically eliminated.
Yeah.
And their solution to famine,
Oh, yeah.
they banned people from having their own food
Wow.
and instead created these communal kitchens
Right.
with these meager rations, further tightening their grip on every aspect of life.
What's especially chilling is the gender disparity in the death rates during this period.
Oh, really?
Significantly more men perished, suggesting a deliberate targeting.
Wow.
This speaks volumes about the regime's twisted ideology, their perception of men as a greater challenge to their authority.
It's mind-boggling that anyone could conceive of this as progress.
Yeah.
But they were absolutely convinced of their righteousness.
Yeah.
What's even crazier?
What's that?
Is that even Mao Zedong,
Oh, wow.
the leader of communist China at the time,
Yeah.
cautioned Pol Pot about going too extreme?
If Mao thinks you're taking things too far,
Right.
you veered way off course.
So we've got this internal reign of terror unfolding, but it's also important to remember the Cold War backdrop.
Right.
Cambodia wasn't isolated.
Right.
It was caught in the crosshairs of global power struggles,
Yeah.
with different communist factions vying for influence.
Absolutely. Cambodia became a pawn in a larger geopolitical game, and the Khmer Rouge's actions were in part fueled by this international context.
So with Cambodia spiraling into this nightmare, how did this horrific chapter finally come to an end?
Well, Well, the end didn't come easily or quickly.
Wow.
The Khmer Rouge, even after being ousted from power by a
Okay.
Vietnamese invasion in 1978,
So they were invaded.
they didn't simply vanish.
Wait, so even after all the atrocities,
Yeah.
all the suffering they inflicted,
Right.
they managed to cling to some semblance of power.
Yes, it's a testament to how deeply entrenched they were.
Wow.
And how those Cold War dynamics
Well.
continued to play out in the region.
Yeah.
Pol Pot and the remaining Khmer Rouge. Okay.
Retreated to the jungles near the Thai border
Okay.
and continued fighting a guerrilla war
Wow.
for another 2 decades.
2 decades.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine the resilience of the Cambodian people
Yeah.
having to endure this threat for so long.
Right.
What fueled this continued struggle?
Wow.
Were they still clinging to the dream of their so-called utopia?
In part, it was about power.
Okay.
The refusal to accept defeat.
Mm-hmm.
They still considered themselves the rightful rulers of Cambodia,
Wow.
even though they'd lost control of the country
Right.
and had minimal support from the people.
Yeah.
But the Cold War was far from over,
Right.
and the Khmer Rouge received backing
Okay.
from China and other countries,
Okay.
wary of Vietnamese influence in Southeast Asia.
So they were being used as a pawn.
They became a proxy force
Right.
in this larger geopolitical chess game.
It's like this twisted irony.
Yeah.
A regime that caused such devastation,
Right.
fueled by an ideology that was supposed to liberate the people.
Instead of being propped up by international powers
Yeah.
for their own strategic interests.
It's a tragic reality of how conflicts can be prolonged
Right.
and how ideology can be manipulated for political ends.
Yeah.
But the Khmer Rouge's grip on power,
Hmm.
even in their diminished state,
Okay.
eventually began to weaken.
Okay.
The end of the Cold War in the late 1980s
Right.
led to a shift in the global landscape,
Yeah.
and their international support dwindled.
So their external support was crumbling.
Yeah.
What about internally?
Well, were there cracks forming within the Khmer Rouge itself? Absolutely. Internal divisions and power struggles started to emerge.
Makes sense.
Remember, this was a regime built on fear and paranoia,
Right.
and that eventually turned inward.
It's like what they say, live by the sword, die by the sword.
Yeah.
But I'm still curious, how did it all finally unravel for Pol Pot?
Okay.
Did he face any kind of reckoning for his crimes?
He did in a way,
Okay.
but not through the traditional channels of justice. Interesting.
In 1997, a dramatic event unfolded.
What happened?
Pol Pot was arrested.
He was arrested.
Not by international forces, but by his own people.
Wow, betrayed by his own inner circle.
Yeah.
Who orchestrated this?
It was one of his top commanders,
Okay.
Tamuk, known as the Butcher, for his ruthlessness.
Oh, wow.
There were rumors that Pol Pot was plotting a purge,
Okay.
possibly targeting Tamuk himself.
So he had to come in.
And so Tamuk acted preemptively.
Wow.
It's a chilling example of the viper's nest Pol Pot had created.
Yeah.
A system where suspicion and betrayal were woven into the fabric of their existence.
So even in their final act,
Right.
they were consumed by the very paranoia and brutality they had inflicted on others.
Exactly.
So what happened to Pol Pot after his arrest?
There wasn't a formal trial in the conventional sense.
Okay.
Instead, the Khmer Rouge put him on display
Okay.
in a jungle village.
Interesting.
He was denounced for his crimes and sentenced to life imprisonment
Wow.
by his own comrades. It's almost Shakespearean, this downfall orchestrated by those he had led.
Right.
Was this a genuine attempt at accountability or just a power play within a crumbling regime?
It's hard to say for sure what motivated them.
Yeah.
Perhaps it was a mix of both.
Right.
But regardless of their intentions, the fact that they felt compelled to put him on trial,
Right.
even in this unconventional way, speaks volumes.
Yeah.
It suggests a recognition, even within the ranks of the Khmer Rouge,
Right.
that what had transpired under Pol Pot's leadership was wrong.
Yeah.
That there was a need for some form of accountability.
So he lived out his days under house arrest,
Right.
judged by those who had been his loyal followers.
Yeah.
What was that period like for him?
He lived a confined life guarded by Khmer Rouge soldiers
Wow.
in a small hut,
Okay.
a stark contrast to the power he once wielded.
Right.
During this time, he gave a few interviews to journalists.
Oh, really?
He maintained that he had acted in what he believed was the best interests of Cambodia. But he did admit that mistakes had been made.
Mistakes.
Yeah.
Hardly seems an adequate term for the scale of devastation.
Right.
The millions of lives lost, a country left shattered.
It's a stark reminder of how self-deception and fanaticism can blind individuals
Yeah.
to the true consequences of their actions.
So how did it all finally end for Pol Pot?
Well,
Did he die peacefully in his sleep?
No, his end was shrouded in mystery, much like his life.
Okay.
In April 1998, he died in his sleep.
Okay.
The official cause was heart failure.
Okay.
But rumors persist of suicide or even poisoning by his former comrades.
Oh, wow.
The truth may never be fully known.
A fitting end, perhaps, for a man who had sown so much chaos and destruction.
It's a reminder that even the most powerful figures eventually meet their end.
Yeah.
And that history has a way of delivering its own form of justice.
Right.
Even if it's not always swift or clear-cut.
Pol Pot is gone. The Khmer Rouge has crumbled. But what about Cambodia?
Yeah.
That nation ripped apart.
Right.
To people traumatized. How do you even begin to heal from such wounds?
It's a monumental challenge.
Yeah.
And there's no single roadmap.
Yeah, it's hard to fathom the scale of the task.
Yeah.
Rebuilding a nation, a society,
Right.
a people after such trauma.
Yeah.
I mean, where do you even start after something like the Khmer Rouge?
It's a monumental challenge, but Cambodia's story is also one of remarkable resilience.
Yeah.
A testament to the human spirit's capacity to heal and rebuild even after unimaginable suffering.
So I'm thinking about those like immediate years
Yeah.
after the Khmer Rouge was finally gone.
Right.
What were the most pressing issues facing Cambodia?
Imagine a country utterly decimated.
Yeah.
Infrastructure shattered, the economy in shambles, an entire generation lost to violence or displacement.
Right.
Millions of landmines littered the countryside, posing an ongoing danger.
Yo.
But beyond the physical rebuilding,
Yeah.
there was this monumental task of healing psychological wounds, restoring trust, and rebuilding a sense of community.
It's heartbreaking. The sheer scale of the devastation,
Yeah.
the landmines alone,
That's
it's like a
real.
hidden enemy.
Yeah.
Continuing to inflict pain even after the conflict is over.
Absolutely.
So where did they even begin?
It required a Herculean effort, a combination of internal willpower and international support.
Okay.
Restoring basic services was paramount: food, water, healthcare, shelter.
Right.
Then there was this painstaking process of clearing those landmines,
Yeah.
an effort that still continues today.
Wow.
But it wasn't just about bricks and mortar.
Right.
They had to rebuild institutions, reestablish education systems, and find ways to address the trauma that permeated every level of society.
So it sounds overwhelming,
Yeah,
yet they persevered.
they did.
What about the political landscape?
Okay.
After decades of turmoil,
Right.
how did they transition to a more stable form of governance?
It was a gradual process,
Yeah.
filled with its own complexities.
Okay.
But in 1993,
Okay.
under the supervision of the United Nations, Cambodia held its first democratic elections in decades.
Wow.
This was a pivotal moment, signaling a return to normalcy and a chance to shape their own future.
So elections are a huge step,
Yeah.
but what about justice?
Right.
Did the survivors, the families of victims, ever see those responsible
Right.
for the Khmer Rouge atrocities held accountable?
That's a question that weighed heavily on Cambodia for years.
Yeah.
There were calls for an international tribunal
Okay.
to prosecute the surviving Khmer Rouge leaders.
Right.
But it was a politically sensitive process,
Sure.
fraught with debate and negotiation.
Yeah.
Finally, in 2006,
Right.
the extraordinary chambers in the courts of Cambodia,
Right.
also known as the Khmer Rouge Tribunal, was established.
So decades after the horrors,
Uh-huh.
there was finally a mechanism for justice.
Right.
How did this tribunal work?
It was a hybrid court,
Okay.
incorporating both Cambodian and international judges and lawyers.
Interesting.
The mandate was to try those most responsible for the crimes committed during the Khmer Rouge regime.
Right.
And it did achieve some landmark convictions.
That must have been a moment of validation
Yeah.
for those who had endured so much.
Yeah.
Were there any specific convictions that stand out?
In 2010,
Okay.
King Gaek Eve, better known as Comrade Dutch, the head of the notorious S-21 prison, was convicted of crimes against humanity and sentenced to life in prison.
Wow.
This was followed in 2014 by the convictions of Nguyen Chi, the Khmer Rouge's chief ideologue,
Okay.
and Khieu Samphan, the former head of state,
Okay.
both also sentenced to life imprisonment.
So it's a powerful message
Right.
that
Okay.
even years later,
Yeah.
accountability matters, and those responsible for such heinous crimes
Yeah.
cannot escape justice.
It sends a really important message.
But I imagine no legal process
Right.
can truly erase the pain,
Yeah.
the scars left by such experiences.
Exactly. The tribunal couldn't undo the past, but it did offer a degree of closure, a sense that those responsible were finally being held to account.
Yeah.
And it provided a platform for survivors
Right.
to share their stories, to have their voices heard, which is an essential part of healing.
It's been a heavy journey exploring this dark chapter.
Yeah, it has.
As we wrap up, I'm wondering, What message would you leave our listener with about Cambodia today?
I think it's vital to remember that Cambodia is so much more than its tragic past.
Right.
It's a country with a rich history, a vibrant culture, and incredible natural beauty.
Absolutely.
And they've made remarkable strides since the Khmer Rouge era.
Yeah?
They've rebuilt their economy, strengthened their democratic institutions, and become a sought-after destination for travelers.
It's a story of resilience, of the human spirit's ability to not only survive, but to thrive,
Yeah,
even in the face of immense adversity.
absolutely. And while challenges remain, poverty, corruption, the lingering trauma of the past,
Sure.
there's a palpable sense of hope and progress.
Yeah.
The Cambodia of today is a testament to the power of human resilience and the possibility of rebuilding even after the darkest of times.
It's an inspiring message.
Yeah.
And I have to say, hearing all of this has definitely piqued my interest in visiting Cambodia one day.
I encourage everyone to learn more about Cambodia, its journey from those dark days to the vibrant nation it is today.
And for our listener, we've included some resources in the show notes if you'd like to delve deeper into this compelling story.
It's a story that deserves to be told, remembered, and learned from.
Well said. And on that note, this concludes our deep dive into the reign of Pol Pot and the legacy of the Khmer Rouge. Thanks for joining us on this heavy but important.
That's it for today's chat. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to follow Unlimited Talk so you won't miss the next episodes. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment rate, and share it with your friends. Got questions or feedback? Drop us an email at the address in the description or reach out through our social media channels.